What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Unapologetically Black Male, where we talk about surviving the stigmas, standards, and systems. Once again, my name is Dwayne Pete. I'm one half of the co-host, my brother EJ Stewart. I want to give a shout out to J Pope and Associates for being a sponsor of this great podcast. Listen, we are here to promote positivity. We are here to promote African American men and their definition of success and how they overcame some different situations that they may have faced to get to where they are now and to get to and still achieving the goals that they want to achieve. So make sure that you continue to like, comment, follow, subscribe, share, help us to continue to push this message of positivity for African American men. We have a great guest on today. I'm gonna turn it over to him and let him introduce himself, give us a little bit background about who he is, what he does, and a little bit about his story.
All right, great. Well, my name is Phillip Wilkerson. I work at George Mason University as an industry advisor for media, arts, design, sports and rec, and hospitality and tourism. Which that means is that I work with students that are interested in entering those industries, as well as employers that are trying to hire Mason talent. I'm a proud husband to my wife, Maggie, of going on 12 years, a father to two boys, Bennett and Miles, both knuckleheads that drive me crazy, but I love them dearly. A local guy, grew up in the area, went to Mount Vernon High School in the area, went to James Madison for college, and then went to George Mason actually for my master's. And I'm also a member of the oldest and coldest fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which gives me an opportunity to do things in the community and serve and help. So I'm just a well-rounded. I'm really excited to be on the show. Oh, lastly, I forgot. I also do host my own podcast, which is called Positive Philter, which focuses on well-being and positivity. And particularly in this subject, I like to definitely talk to Black men about their experiences with well-being and all those things. But that was just a quick intro about me.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Man, we could have shut the intro down after you mentioned what part of fraternity you was from.
Yes.
The oldest and the coldest. Hey,
yes,
man,
sir.
Praise the Lord.
yes. Only one way. See the light.
There's only one way. So are you from you said from the area so you like from the Virginia? What part of Virginia?
Yeah. So as it is Northern Virginia, very military base. My dad's an Army colonel, retired Army colonel. My mother is actually a military doctor as well. So we grew up a lot all over the place. But luckily for me, my dad settled and made roots here in Northern Virginia at the end of his career. So I was able to go from high school on or middle school on. And so that's not an experience that a lot of military kids get, to have that stability at the very end of those instrumental years. But I'm so blessed that from middle school on, so I was able to make my lifetime friends, the godfathers of my children, all that because, those years of being put here in Northern Virginia. So I do claim Virginia. My dad actually is a Virginia native, before the military. So we are through and through Virginia. And so now I happen to live in Fairfax, live in the area and work at George Mason, as I said. So, Virginia is my home. This is where I'm going to be at for a while.
What was it like coming up? What was it like coming up where you were? Being of a military family, but also being a Black male. What were some of the challenges or stigmas or standards or things that you may have had to face, early on?
So, I've always really evaluated this. I never realized the level of privilege that I had growing up until I saw the world outside of that privilege. And so, I was never one to ask for, I never needed, like I said, my dad was an officer. That's stability and a well-rounded career. My mother was a doctor. And so, education, all that, like these were just standards, right? I make a joke, like I was talking to one of my brothers the other day and was like, they never knew about fraternities. My dad was a Q, like I saw that, what I'm saying? I don't know how it happened. My mom was an AK. So like, yeah. So it is what it is. So, and I did all these things when I was growing up. And as I dropped these things I was doing, I didn't realize that was privilege. Like my mom was I was in Jack and Jill, if y'all familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or my mom was a Lynx. And now I learned that's like a very kind of like elite Black organization. I don't know. So I didn't realize the level of privilege that I had until very end when I went to public high school for the first time. So I went to private school all the way through, and then at the end, like I said, my dad's military career, I went to Mount Vernon High School, which is off Richmond Highway, and it was like this was one of the instrumental periods of my time where I felt like I hit the real world hard, and it was like, wow, there is an economic gap that I wasn't really exposed to in regards to other Black students that weren't. I was the one and few, the few in the IB, advanced classes. And so, I got teased a little bit growing up. They called me, what's it called? They said I act white or talked white or, didn't experience things the same, which was funny because when I went to Mount Vernon, I did an all Black male course in the 10th grade, a leadership class by Holbrook. And he purposely reached out to me. It was like, I wanted brothers on that spectrum. So he had me in the class, the IB kids and all that. And that's where I met my best friend Hillard, in that class. And it was like really meeting the two different worlds. And so in regards to my stereotype, I've always constantly seen this level of the diaspora of Black men, right? The non-monolithic thing. And I was really exposed to it. I was like, I traveled the world. I was eating food and all this different things. I was really exposed to the world. I come to, Mount Vernon and all that, and I'm meeting people that like did not have the same cultural experiences of seeing the world and traveling and being educated and having access to resources. So that was really hard. Like, I really think like now that I'm a 37-year-old man, I wish I could go back and really talk to myself, about like feeling like you are Black regardless. Like, like I am Black, it's almost like that. I love reading, and I felt like I had that two-spirit mentality, right? The W.E. Du Bois talented TIFF mentality, where I was like, I'm Black. I have this identity. I have this spirit, but I'm navigating two worlds concurrently. Right. This very Eurocentric white world of being the only Black student in certain things. And then I drop in and I'm in this world with predominantly Black students. And so I told my dad that was a blessing. I'm so glad that you did stop going to private school and I went to public school. I'm so glad that I had that experience in the 10th grade. I'm so glad that I didn't navigate my whole childhood experience through privilege. Because I needed to see the world. I needed to see people different. I needed to experience, that non-monolithic Blackness. And so, I don't know, but it was hard. No one wants to be called, say you act white and talk white. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm just who I am. That, that was pretty hard in high school. I hated that. I hated that growing up.
And it's important for you to share that experience because, we aren't monolithic. We are diverse within our culture of being Black men. And, you're not the first person that we've interviewed that said that, but you're one of the few, you know what I mean? So it's always good to hear people share that and share that story, because now we're in a day and age where it's important for us to be aware, you know what I mean? And someone needs to hear that so they can support the next young Phil.
Yeah. And also I was thinking about this. One time I used to get angry. I was like, when they said that was white or that's a white thing, I was like, what made white people own all the cool stuff I wanted to do? Like, oh, you like anime, that's white. Well, no, anime is dope, man. I like anime. You know what I'm saying? Like, how come they get that? Oh, you listen to rock music. Well, I mean, I listen to all music, but I was like, why do they get to own that? Like, why do they get to own, if you like something that's different, why is that white? Like that almost made me feel like that's not fair. We should have the ability to like all kinds of different things and eat sushi and all that stuff. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Like, what made this a white thing and a Black thing? And I remember that. And I was like, no, like almost as a form of resistance. It was like, I like it too. I don't care. And And then funny enough, I exposed my boys to it, and now they like it too. You know, the things I like. And I'm like, that's all it really takes is exposure to realize that like things and ideas and culture and art, you know, is not owned by whiteness. Classical music is not owned by whiteness. Literature and writing and intelligence and being scientifically gifted in STEM is not owned by whiteness. Like none of these things are owned by whiteness. We have, you know, the greatest thinkers, the greatest minds across this are Black. And so, you know, as I've gotten older, I wish it's like, as when you're older, you don't care anymore. Like, I wish I could take this brain and realize, like, put that in my high school self and just be like, do you? You're going to be happier that way anyway. Like, but you don't realize that until you're an adult and you really don't care what high school kids think. Now you make fun of them. You know, like,
absolutely
crazy. It's different. You know, they got terms now, blurred, Black nerd. I was like, man, I was a blurred before that junk was even cool to be a blurred, you know, rocking my comic books and all that stuff. I was like, man, so, you know, I just really want to stress to anyone that, right, like in our spirit, that we have an ancestry. They can never take away your Blackness. And you can enjoy things as you want and be yourself, and it's not owned by whiteness. I think the only time, you know, I think about those terms about anti-Blackness is that when there's people that exhibit self-hate enough where they start saying things where they put whiteness on a pedestal, meaning like, oh, that they're better because they're white, you know. But no, if you like things that are different, then you like things that are different. It's not owned by race. That was kind of a soapbox.
No, you fit. You're hitting the criteria. Unapologetically Black and male.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, sometimes we need those times to kind of articulate those feelings about how we feel about the different struggles that we had to kind of deal with, especially, you know, the one, you know, it's a different perspective. You know, you know where we hear about it, but you know, it's not too often where you hear people that's willing to share about, you know, I felt like, you know, it was a definitely gap, like as far, and it's nothing that you did. It's, you know, you can't control that your parents, you know, aspire to be what they aspired. You just came into that union based off of their relationship, and it's just realizing that, you know, as you say, you define who you are. You can't allow people to define, you know, you based off your likes. So I definitely appreciate you for sharing that. You know, how was it growing up in the house with a, you know, military dad, and just like, was it structured? Like I you know, because my dad was in the military, but he wasn't like, he was reserved, so it wasn't, you know, full time. It's different. It's a different level.
Yeah. No, you know, add the O to, you know, 06, whatever, you know, the rating. I sometimes he made the bed tight, make the bed. Bounce a quarter off of it, you know what I'm saying? That's how I did it, you know. Tuck my shirt in. Then he tried to make me tuck my shirt in before I went to high school, and I'd like tuck it in, he'd drive off, I'd take it out, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was very organized. You know, my dad was made for this. Like, he was Boy Scout. He was in a uniform since he was 6. Like, he was one of the first Black students to go to VMI. A military institute.
Military institute.
Yeah. And then he was gung-ho. He was like even gung-ho where like VMI, if you go to VMI, you don't have to be military. Like you can go there and just like they only say like only like 60% go into military. They go to VMI for this organizational structure, and then they go off and be doctors and lawyers. My dad was like, I'm going in the military, I'm going to VMI. And then even his roommates were like, this dude is gung-ho. Like this dude is like, shh. So a lot growing up was seen, but you know, unheard. You know, like don't talk back. You know, a lot of it was yes, what, yes sir. You know, I had to make sure I said yes sir. It was ingrained, and I Mr. Mrs. very organized. And I was a wild kid in regards to loud and outgoing, but I was never misbehaved. Like my dad could look across the room and just give me the eyes and I tighten up, you know, like it was like that, you know, like I remember one time I bit a kid in the preschool. I bit a kid like in preschool, a bit a kid. And they were like, your mom's coming. I was like, my mom's coming. My dad came in his full military uniform to pick me up. I started crying. I already knew I was in trouble. And my dad knew he didn't even have to raise a hand. That's how much command he had as a man. He didn't have to raise his hand. He made me sit in a chair and watch him rake leaves for 2 hours and don't move. And I didn't. I like literally, they say, what is the most memorable punishment? Was that I literally could still remember that. Like sitting there and like, if you move, I swear. And like, I don't know what the I swear was because he didn't have to get to it. Like, he didn't have to get to it. So my house was very, seen and not heard. I definitely had a rebellious, that wall too, hitting Mount Vernon. I ain't gonna lie. I went bad. I was one of those kids that was like the Dare commercial, like, oh man, you're going to act out. I acted out, because I don't know, I just want to be rebellious. And so, going back in a time machine, I wish I would have been a little bit more like, just instead of when I was having hard times in high school, I could have just asked my dad rather than hide because, he was so strict. But there's weird things like mannerisms. Like I don't make my bed every day, but when I do, I have to make it all the way. I don't half-ass make my bed, like I do these things the way my dad does or the way I talk. This raspy voice, it's not, I don't smoke. That's the Wilkerson. That's like me and my dad both had this raspy voice. Like I'm catching myself in that organized way, but my dad was very organized, very, very boom, boom, boom. And then my mom is not. So that's where I came out. So, so I'm in the middle of my parents. Both big personalities though. Both big person. My dad had a lot of friends, so he wasn't like, he was military, but he was also very social. So
you said your dad was a Q too, right?
Yeah, you know how it is, man. My dad only had one rule. My dad was like, you could be whatever you want, but if you're not a Q, you pay for it yourself. That's all he said. And then on the other end, my mom's dad, so my maternal grandfather was a Kappa. So we're all over the place. So I'm like I'm the random alpha. All my uncles are Kappa. My dad's a Q. My mom's AK, and then there's me, the random alpha in the family.
Got you.
Wow. How did that relationship with your dad translate to now you and your boys?
So me and my dad on the level where I can talk to him like this. I can say I didn't like this or I did like this, and what are you gonna do? Like, like very bold. Like I said, very bold, but at the same time, I don't know. I just ingrained use a level of deference, right? I still say sir. I still listen when he talks. I don't interrupt him. So but I do have a little bit more confidence in regards to like I'm choosing my own path on things. I'm an educator. I'm not a military guy. I don't like shell up when he talks and like stutter. No, I'm an adult, so I can talk to him like a man and a friend. But there's also still 100% level of respect and admiration, and also just like I don't know, man. I still think like you were talking about success before I got on here. I was like, I feel like I'm not even a drop in the bucket to what my dad is. Like he's still to me on a level of a pedestal. You know what I'm saying? Like in regards to someone. Went to war, went to Desert Storm, you know what I'm saying? Or he commanded men. Like he legit can talk to an audience of 100,000 men, 100,000, that's exaggeration, 1,000, right? 1,000 men, and they all salute him, and room is silent, and they listen to him. And it's like, man, that's command, right? That's pretty dope. I saw that growing up as a kid. I saw my dad walk out and whole rows of people salute him, and then he would talk. And they would all like listen. Like think about how that ingrains into a young black man's mind, a young boy's mind of seeing someone like that, like in a level. And then you're like, yeah, I'm not at that level. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing that command. So I've taken a long time to realize what leadership really is. I thought leadership was very authoritative, very you're the man in front of a lot of people. And honestly, I'd be totally honest that it was I crossed later. I crossed in 2017, but it was more so like later on now in the past 5 years where I feel like I've shaped my own leadership to realize that I am a leader, just a different one than my father. I definitely influence people in a positive way, but maybe not so with saluting and silence. More maybe a little bit more collaborative. Um, but I definitely feel like I can lead people or solicit ideas. So, but that took a long time. Took a long time to
But,
get out of that.
but taking that in retrospect to now being a parent, how does that influence you as a parent?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely not authoritative. I think my kids get away with a lot more. like, there's so many times I was like, man, these kids don't know how lucky they got it, man. If they was my dad, if they had Papa, they call him Papa. They had Papa as a dad, man, it's no joke. And like, they getting away with murder, but I don't know. I mean, my dad even said, like no one's perfect. He said, I want you to just do better than me and parent different than me. And I think one of the things I do want, I mean, I definitely want to have discipline. I want to have honor, respect, all the things, the values my dad taught. I just don't want to be so authoritative that when my kids are in high school or in trouble, that they don't come to me. Like, they come to me and, yo, I'm in trouble. I need help. Or, you know, I'm at a party. Can you come pick me up? Like I would never ask my dad to come pick me up for no party. I'd probably like walk home before I got that or hitch the ride. You know what I'm saying? Like I would want that level where like I'm disappointed in you. You're in trouble. Yes, you are in trouble. You're grounded, whatever. But I need you to tell me rather than hide stuff. And so I'm hopefully setting up the foundation of that parenting where like I'm already starting to see it a little bit because my sons are starting to snitch on themselves a little bit more. Like they tell me they did something wrong before they, dad, I did that. What you did? Like, like they starting to tell me. So hopefully that sets the tone. But at the same time, I definitely want to still incorporate some of those values and things that, like it's almost like taking what my dad did, take what I liked and, making it my own. But like I definitely love the values, like be honest, be respectful, be accountable, be a man of your word, all those things. My value system from my father is top notch. I just want to try to do it my own way. And I know I'm not going to be perfect either. My kids are going to tell me I did something wrong. And then, they'll go ahead, teach your kids and lead them the way that you want to too. But hopefully I give you a couple nuggets where you got a foundation that you do better than me.
Absolutely. Being as unapologetically black and defined in your experiences in high school and that transition, what was it like going to JMU, just being who you are? How was it, how were you able to operate in that space being a minority student?
Well, I was very surprised that there was a lot more clickiness in college. So yes, I went to Mount Vernon. Yes, Mount Vernon, Richmond Highway has a very large social economic gap. So we have the very rich kids that live on the water. We have subsidized housing. I think guess I hate to say it, but sports is the great uniter. You know,
Mhm.
so we had friends that would hang out, black, white, rich white kids hanging out with black kids. It was just very diverse and mixed. I mean, it was just a unique, weird thing. Then I get to college, and it was more siloed, and I just wasn't used to that. So I moved in with one of my college. I transferred. I went to Bowie State first on a
Oh
track
wow.
scholarship. I went to Bowie State on a track scholarship, then
Wow.
transferred. I always wanted to go to JMU, but like I said, I was a knucklehead, so my grades was I was waitlisted. Like this is crazy. Like like how much my journey has changed. But I was really a knucklehead that turned themselves around. But when I got to JMU, I moved in with one of my good friends from high school. Was a white guy named Kelly Sharble who played football with us and was, you know, like literally we joke he was like the one white guy to hang out with all black. All his friends was black. And then I moved in with friends that he already established at JMU, which was one other black male named Chris, who I'm really close to. I'm close to all of them now. And then my other friend Matt. And so we gelled. We already had this like very diverse background. Chris was from Northern Virginia too. He understood this, he went to Oakton High School, so I don't know if it was as diverse as Mount Vernon, but Northern Virginia, regardless. But I remember these experiences where it was like, we're having a party. Which one? Are we having a black party or a white party? I said, no, we're having people come over. And the parties would literally be like, at the beginning, it'd be like all these white guys and my friend Kelly's white fraternity brothers playing beer pong and all this stuff and doing all that stuff. And then legit, it'd be all the black friends that we know. They would come at 11. The lights would go on. The lights would go off. They would stop drinking the beer. They would start drinking the juice and liquor. All the white kids would leave and they start dancing. And the only white people would stay. The only white people that stay at our party would be the white people that grew up in diverse. So Kelly, my wife, who is white, she went to West Potomac. A couple of her roommates, they would stay, and it would turn into a quote unquote black party. And so I was just so founded by this, like this divide of like you had to pick and choose who you associated with. And like once again, it was another instance where I was navigating two worlds. I had these white friends from, my wife, well, my girlfriend at the time and her friends, all that. But then I had all my black friends because I joined organizations like Bond, which was called Brothers of a New Direction. So Brothers of a New Direction. So, which was interesting because if you were in Bond, it was basically a recruiting ground for the MPHC. So you would join Bond, and then later on, most guys out of Bond would join, either become an Alpha or Kappa at JMU. So I had a very black experience at JMU, but also a very white experience. And it was just very odd for me to navigate that as well. And it was once again another instance of this navigating these two spaces.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially, I'm glad you're explaining that dynamic of the party. That was funny.
Yeah. So we had these like really cheap apartments, and you would dance on the wall, and your jeans would bleed on the wall, and there were legit butt prints all over the wall.
Absolutely.
And my mom came down and she was like, "Yeah, what are these?" And I was like, "They booty marks. We used to call them booty marks." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, y'all having these parties?" And it was like legit. That was a thing. Like legit, it was like beer pong and, "Hey dude, hey, they got the keg going." It literally would be like that. "Hey dude, the keg," and then it'd be like, "Oh snap,
it's a booty party."
All these football players, and it's like dapping me up and all that, and it changed. The whole party changed, and you literally would see sprinklings of like my wife, trying to back it up. She's trying, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? She's trying to do it. You know what I'm saying? She's trying to do it. And I'm doing a little, behind the girl, like doing a little thing behind her, you know what I'm saying? But it was great. And like one of the things though that culminated that though was like we translated that into our wedding. And I feel like my wedding was the UN. We actually jumped broom. We actually did the little, my wife is Jewish. We did the chair thing.
Oh, wow.
We get on the chair, but then we did a Soul Train line. And you would never seen it. We see like an old 80 white woman, grandma, going down with one of my best friends doing the Soul Train line. I was like, man, that's it, man. That's unity. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I wish that people could just like, it's once again one of those things where it's like, get outside of yourself and do things that you wouldn't do. Like if you're a white person, go to an all black setting by yourself on purpose. Now, don't take up all the space in that room, kind of fall back. You don't want to embarrass yourself or sit up on World Star or something, like person can't dance and they photo, like kind of be discreet, but go there, you know what I'm saying? Go to the situation. And then on the flip side, I think that all black people should go to different events that they, horse race or something like polo or something like that. I've never done that though. So like Preakness. Have you ever been to Preakness or one of those Preakness or
no,
Strawberry Field, one of the horse races up there?
Yeah, we got the Preakness here, but black folks got the Derby events and all of that kind of stuff where you dress up and cigars and bourbon. I haven't been to one yet, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to do one of those. I want to do the Kentucky Derby, but like try these different experiences on both sides of the aisle. That'd be dope.
Yeah, I can agree with that because I went to a PWI in like rural Pennsylvania, South Pennsylvania. So my first night there, I hook up because I got a scholarship. It's called the Barner Scholars, and I hook up with this
Yeah,
guy. We cool. I'm like, we click. Like, it's a white guy, probably one
yeah,
of my best buds the entire time. He like, let's go to a bonfire. Mind you, I'm a black dude from Baltimore City,
yeah,
ain't never been to a bonfire. So I'm
yeah,
like, okay, cool, let's do a bonfire. We all go. They were like, yeah, we're gonna have some drinks. I'm like, but their drinks is beer. So
yeah.
so on the way out there, he's like, yeah, you ever been cow tipping? Cow tipping. What
Yes,
is that?
no,
Needless to say, we didn't do any cow tipping last night, but he showed me the process of what you do to the cows. So we went to
no,
the
yeah,
bonfire.
it's crazy. And then you show them some stuff and you expose them. And I think a lot of things they're talking about this D&I training and diversity, equity, and and what I realized that is that the main thing is exposure. And when I say that, I'm not saying like you should have black friends just to have black friends. Like that's not go there or have white. Like that's my one black friend. I hate that. That's not the right thing to go.
I have one of those.
Hey, that's one of my black friends. But I will understand this though. Uh, differences, in regards to opinions and all that stuff lower when you see someone as a human being and you share life experiences and understand different cultures. Like I think that you need to expose yourself. The world is bigger than your monolith. Even within black culture, your world is bigger than that, right?
Mhm.
And I think I think that I think every black person that has of middle class or whatever needs to meet their brothers and sisters in different social economic experiences to understand that one, the diversity in blackness, right? And
Mhm.
vice versa. I think people that are in marginalized that don't see bigger than themselves need to see, black people in professions so they can see themselves doing that one day. So it needs to be both, right? Both, not yes and or, but both, right? Like
Mhm.
you need to bridge, like, I think the responsibility, we say the talented tiff. I hate to say that, but point is, you're supposed to have a responsibility as you elevate to pull others up as an educated person and vice versa. So I think that, but then across identity aisles, like across cultures, we need to expose ourselves. Have been some of my greatest experiences have been outside of my comfort zone. So, for instance, I studied abroad in China. I went to study abroad at JMU in China. I was the only black dude around. That changed my worldview. The world is bigger than America. The world
Mhm.
is bigger, looking at the America from the outside and how they look at us on the news. The world is bigger than that, right? We got to get outside of that and understand how Chinese and go to Africa. You got to travel the world. And so what I would really preach to people is like, don't I'm going back to that thing. Like, don't let certain things be owned by one group, one experience. If you want to see a rugby match, go see that rugby match. See it. See something different. You want to do that bonfire, which I've
Yeah.
never done a real one. I got a little the thing, the you put the wood in it, but like a little
Mhm.
small bonfire. But I've never been to one of them big things with the big logs where they dance around it. Look like, I've never been to one of those. I do. Like those are like one of those bucket things. Like I want to do things that I've never done before, And because seeing that will change your life view, it will change your worldview. It will show you that the world is bigger than what you think, that we're more connected than what we think,
Mhm.
that we can respect each other's differences. We can also understand, like, not be colorblind, no colorblindness. Like we all appreciate our differences. We see our visible differences, but we also understand the similarities too. Like it's a paradox, right? We want to be like we don't want to have this color blindness and you know I'm not black, I'm Phillip, like whatever. I'm not black, I'm OJ, whatever. We don't want that. No, we don't want that. That's not diversity. That's not inclusion. That's not equity. That's not the end goal. The end goal is that I'm black. I am Phillip Wilkerson, I'm black, but at the same time, I also see you and whatever you are. And I see you and whatever you are. And I respect that. I love that. I appreciate that. I like to learn about that. That's kind of those things that I'm thinking about.
I got two questions. First one being, what happened at Bowie, and did you stop running track and why?
Oh, okay. So Bowie is by happenstance, man. They gave me they messed up. They not messed up and gave me an academic scholarship instead of an athletic scholarship. So all I needed to do was keep my grades. Now, mind you, the end goal, I was mad. I was actually, pissed that I didn't get into JMU. Like I applied, I got waitlisted. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, Bowie is a community college to me, in a sense that my mind was already gone. Like I was already out of the door. I People will say this that oh, you transferred for your wife or your girlfriend at the time. No, I got waitlisted and I had a chip on my shoulder and I was doing this. I was connecting with my man Art Dean, who was instrumental black educator that like I talked to him, I was like, Art Dean, what I got to do to transfer? He told me what grades I need to get. Like, shout out to Art Dean. So I treated Bowie like a transfer school, in a sense that my mind was already gone. Like I was like, I'm gonna get good grades, I'm gonna get Dean's List, I'm out of here. Now, going back in retrospect, I still would have transferred, so don't get that twisted. But I would have appreciated the moment a little bit better. And I still, keyword though, I still have lifetime relationships for my Bowie classmates and my suite mates. Shout out to Ricky, my man Ricky Jarvis, and all that, my suite mates. But it was almost one of those things where it's like, one of those times where it's like you already know you're gonna leave the party, like you already know you're gonna leave. So you just step in, you do just the bare minimum. I lived on campus my freshman year, but when they said you can live off campus your sophomore year, I moved all the way back home in Alexandria, Virginia, and I just commuted for class. That's how
Wow.
much I was. Well, because I was trying to. One, they gave me a scholarship, right? So they gave me the room and board check. I pocketed that, Joe. I put the room and board check. Put it. I got that room and board check, and I would stay at home and work my job and had extra money because I wasn't paying for room and board. I was staying at my parents' house and commuting. And then I was like, I'm gonna get my grades up. I'm gonna transfer, and I did. I did 2 years at Bowie, and 2 years at Bowie, and 3 years at JMU. But, that's that. I mean, okay. I transferred. Also, I changed my major, and I just enjoyed the time. But no, I live a life with no regrets. I'm so glad I did go to Bowie. I'm so glad I saw the amazing marching band. I went to a couple games, made friends. I saw fraternities and all that stuff. I saw a bunch of probates at the thing. I was like, man, I went to Bowie. They had like a line of deltas that was like 50 deep. Go to JMU, it's like 10 deep. I was like, it's crazy. It's crazy here. But I would never replace my HBU experience. I would say if I went back into it, I still would have transferred. I just would have soaked it up a little bit more. I would have been a little bit more grateful. I would have been a little bit more, when you call like being in the present, and like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I've gotten that now because I've drove up to Bowie, like when I visit the area, and I walk around campus, which is transformed. It's crazy. Shout out to the woman that from Amazon, whatever, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. They donate all that money, but they got all these new buildings. I mean, it's crazy. But I was like, wow, like I literally sat on the campus like about, I'd say 3 months ago, 2 months ago. And I was like, man, I sat on the bench and I went to my old dorm. I was like, if I could, all these lessons I learned, I was like, I wish I could have gone back and just, I still would have transferred, but I wish I would have appreciated the moment a little bit more. I wish I would have done a little bit more. I wish at least my freshman year, got involved with a couple more clubs or something.
Mm.
I don't know. Then if I did that though, then maybe I would have never left. I don't know.
Yeah, hindsight.
But
Hindsight.
but I do make it a point every single time in life is that even if I'm going to bounce, to at least leave with a meaningful relationship. Like, I was like, I'm not going to be so jaded that I don't want to go here because I didn't get a JMU, that I want to make a friend. So I wanted to make friends. So I made some really good friends I still stay in touch with from Bowie. So I can go up there and half a tailgate, when I say half of, like, fake like I'm a Bowie alum, but I'm not really. They let me rock at the tailgate. They'll let me come to homecoming. You know what I'm saying? Now I can go to Alpha Plot. You know what I'm saying? They won't kick me out. But I my mind was already lazy. Like, it was more so like I was like almost like, how dare you deny me JMU? I'll show you. I'm gonna go to JMU, and I'll go, and I did.
Got you. Let's
go ahead.
No, I could appreciate that, and I could appreciate your transparency and your honesty. about that experience and just kind of how focused you were. It's almost like that focus from your dad
Oh yeah.
kicking in.
No,
like
no.
like
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I can appreciate that. But can you give us a little bit about what you currently do and how did you get to that position, and what are some challenges that you may face in that current position right now?
All right, that's great. So, Cliff Note version. So after I graduated, I got a history degree, which is funny because that is the one thing that me and my dad both got, history degrees. And I had no aspirations of being a teacher. I never really thought about it beyond college. I just knew I liked history because I get straight A's and I enjoyed the classes. So I moved home. I'm living at home with my parents. Um, and I got a job, my first job out of college at a school called Alternative Paths Training School. And so what the school is a school for children with special needs, Down syndrome, autism, all that, but the extreme behaviors. So they're, biting, kicking. They're contracted out by Northern Virginia, the public schools. Like they're out, like they can't go to the public schools. They go to this school. And so I was called a behavior facilitator, meaning basically a teacher's bodyguard, aka a punching bag. Just they whoop my ass, these kids, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I still got the bite marks and all that. But I was like in that moment, I was like, man, it's not the wave. I gotta go back to school, man. I got, I got to, this is, but I wanted, but I liked it. Shout out to APTS though. I was like, I love education though. I love just students, whether, students with these high needs or nothing. School setting is for me. So I did my Google. I said, I want to go back to grad school. I want to be an educator, but I don't want to be a traditional teacher. So I said, maybe I'll be a school counselor. So I Googled school counseling, master's programs, and lo and behold, George Mason pops up. And lo and behold, George Mason doesn't require GRE. So your boy's in. I did an interview. I did an interview. I went to that, and my life changed forever. I mean, George Mason's counseling program not only changed my outcome, but it changed me because as I went through the counseling program, we had to participate in counseling. So we had classes with Bama was crying, I was crying, doing like self-reflection. I mean, we had to practice on each other. I mean, it was just the most transformational program ever. But in that program, I realized that I didn't want to be a school counselor. I wanted to be a career counselor. And the reason why I found that is because one of the classes, legit, I'm the like key component of random happenstance of just navigating life and going with the flow. So in that class, we had a career counseling class. And in that career counseling class, we were learning about resumes and cover letters, but we're also realizing about how much our identity is tied to our careers and how to counsel people through career transitions and all this stuff and mock stuff and all that stuff. So a guy from the actual career center at Mason came to our class and was like, if you like to do career counseling, we actually have an office here on campus and you can do an internship here. And the light bulb went off. I was like, that's where I want to go. And so I bothered that dude for 6 months. I emailed him. I said I was going to can I do a shadowing? I shadowed him for a day. I did an informational interview. His name is Ken Garant. He passed away, but shout out to him. And he was like, Phillip, stop, leave me alone. You got the internship. So I did the internship at Career Services back in 2011, 2012. And I realized that's my lane. I want to work on a college. I want to work in college with young people. Particularly, I want to work in career services. But, it's all limited, right? There's not that many slots. So I graduated in 2012 and I navigated different offices. I worked in financial aid. I worked in admissions. I worked in all these different counseling, again, career counseling, with the mindset of just staying in at least the industry of higher ed. You can once you're in the system, you can pivot, right? Like you can start in financial aid and know the people that work in the career center and, move over. So in 2017, opening came up. Wasn't even looking. I was working for VCU at the time as a transfer counselor, meaning I didn't live in Richmond. I lived up here, but I helped students from Northern Virginia transfer to Richmond. One of my old colleagues from my internship said, Phillip, hey, I'm see you're doing well. Congratulations on your son, on my son being born. I'd encourage you to apply. She sent me that junk on LinkedIn. And man, the rest is history. I've been at Mason since in the Career Center where that whole journey started with the internship. Now, you said what's one of the problems? There's an article that's very specific about it. Educators don't get paid, man. Like it's a very hard field. You get a lot of training, you get a lot of, but it's so tempting. There's been specifically during COVID, what we call the mass exodus of higher ed. I see so many colleagues of mine in higher ed, you know, take their skills that they learn in careers and go to the private sector, go to Amazon, making 6 figs and all that. So there's a retention issue in regards in higher ed. Higher ed, and particularly student affairs, needs to rethink how they support people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love it. I love there's the work-life balance part. There's parts about working in higher ed that I do love. It's hopefully they're getting better at flexibility, but as they embrace the hybrid model, that's better. I still have an influence on students, that's better. I have all these benefits. Going back to school, I just got accepted to a PhD program at Mason. So it's free 99 because I'm employed by Mason. So those are all benefits. But I think that one of the trouble parts is it's one of those. It's like anything. I think educators at all. If you ask any teachers, I think it's thankless work.
Yeah.
I personally feel a lot of purpose helping young people. I feel purpose as an educator. I feel ingrained in who I am as in my core that reach one, teach one. I feel that, I have a whole folder in my email. When a student tells me good news, I put it in a good news folder. But like, how much is a good news folder ain't going to pay your bills though. Like it makes me feel good. It gives me fulfillment. It gives me joy, but also the reality of life and stuff. So I think that's the trouble with higher ed, but I'm in it for the long haul. I really can't see myself being some other than an educator. Like I literally have the license plate that says Alpha Educator. Like, education, one of our jewels, Natalia Allison Murray was an educator. Like, I think it was funny part because there used to be such a prestige to being a teacher, right? Like, for the Black community,
Absolutely.
my grandparents, my grandfather's generation, right? If you were educated, either you were in the medical field or you were educated, you were a teacher. And that was a very noble, prestigious community. You're doing it. I don't think, as the world changes and, the money, I believe it's still prestigious to teach and inspire and have impact. But, it's not as glamorous as it used to be, being an educator.
Yeah, definitely not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, man,
congrats on your
the PhD. What's your field? Is counseling?
Nah, it's random. History undergrad, counseling masters, and now I got accepted to the communication, PhD communication. I'm all over the place, man. I don't know what I want to do with my life, man. I'm just trying to. They accepted me, so we'll see.
It's free. It's free, so that's all that matters.
Free and one class at a time. That's all I promise myself. One class at a time. Take it for what it is. Learn. I love learning. Be open to it. See what happens. Absolutely. Don't lose no money. Don't lose no sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that's definitely a plus, especially with the PhD piece, especially the position that you hold, and the different, the encouragement that you provide as well as the encouragement that you get is definitely a blessing. As far as help empowering, educating, getting people to where they need to be in their life. So I definitely want to applaud you for that. Really appreciate your efforts to continue to help people to succeed, despite it not being the most paying.
Yeah.
But you realize the importance of it, and it'll all pay off in the long run, as they always say. And I think with the new, I'm pretty sure you'll find another position and continue to aspire to be great and do great things at George Mason. It seems like they got you for a while now.
Yeah, they got me. And like I said, so like there's times where I really, really sit down and I think about like impactful people. right? And I think about that art dean that got me in. It's like crazy because like I text Holbrook, the one that was the 10th grade leadership class, and I texted him. I kept in touch, and I said, you know what, Holbrook, I'm 30. Like I come out of nowhere. Like your class changed my life. I met my best friends. The person that's the godfather of my children was from your class. And like he responded, was like, I made it. Like I never, like I I couldn't believe like that's what people really, they won't get it. There, like the investment in people as an educator. I tell them all out there, like hold on to day day. You will not get those dividends. You will not see the seeds. You might even die and not know, and they all come to your funeral. But like, think about how powerful that is. You can remember your impactful educator and a teacher that believed in you, and how that one teacher can set the trajectory of your life in so many different ways. And like, that is crazy to me. And that's something that I hold in high regard and a lot of responsibility. Do I show up every day at 100%? No, I don't. But I still try at least. I try at least. And I also understand that impact is not going to be seen. Sometimes impact happens behind closed doors. Sometimes impact happens 20 years down the line and you'll never see it. And you have to believe in your heart that it's worth it. And now me experiencing on the other side and giving that back to Holbrook, I do know it's worth it because I know that like me just doing that and reaching out, that I would love that to happen to me someday.
Absolutely.
I would love a random student. I don't even remember their name. Sometimes they'd be like, Phillip, Mr. Wilkerson. I'm like, which class was you in? I don't remember. Like, but like, think about how impactful that is. You don't get to do that in a lot of other things, right? You make a lot of money. You have all this frivolous stuff, but like, did you really change lives? And I mean, maybe like I say, know your values, right? Like maybe you don't value about that. Like that's okay. But for me, that's very important. Right. Seeing my dad and how he was impactful. I think that one of my values is to be someone of a significance. And significance does not equal status. Significance to me equals impact. Meaning I want to just leave an impact. I just want to make sure that when I, God forbid, it's my time to go, that I help people. And as the educator, I uplifted people and I taught them and they changed the world. Maybe they're the ones that I always joke. I'm like, I'll be the one that like, I'm still here at Mason and I got these kids making 6 figures and being billionaires. Holla at me, give me at least, some free tickets to your free tickets or some, hook me up with something. Dang, I'll take that. I'll take free tickets to your suite, when you own a certain thing, but I don't know. I get that though. I get a lot of that random text. I get these random messages and I mean, I call that my good news fuel. That's all I need, honestly. That's not what my wife wants, but that's what I need. Like she was like, I think your good news folder needs to come with some more money. But for me, that it does fill me up. That it makes me happy. It's like burst of, I don't know, dopamine, but that was a burst. Like if I get an email and I read it and it's like I help someone, that email juices me up for a while. For real, it does.
Fulfillment.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I want to take the time just to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule and coming on the podcast and just kind of sharing your story and sticking with us and sharing your story. Truly appreciate it. And I would have asked you gave a parting word, but I think you just gave it when you just talked about your values and just talking about just kind of knowing who you are. And really just kind of operate that and understanding the impact you leave might not be, something that you immediately see, but it's almost like you planting a seed and let somebody else water it. And I can definitely appreciate that and really appreciate you for taking the time to be on this podcast with us. And if people like to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach out, to touch bases if they have more questions about
Okay,
what it is.
So podcast wise, positive filter across the board. Filter spelled with a PH because I'm very clever. You know, Philter, PHILTR, positive. In other ways, LinkedIn is always a good way. I'm always very active on that. My normal personal Instagram is illphil500, which I've had since high school. And then my Twitter, which I'm pretty active on Twitter, is Phillp_W3. So those are some ways that people can get in contact with me, but mainly the Positive Filter podcast. I really love engaging with people. Definitely, you know what? We're going to do I'm saying this right now. I definitely want to have both of you gentlemen on my podcast. Maybe we can even meet. Where y'all in Maryland?
Yeah, we're Maryland.
I don't know, man. I might have to come to y'all because I got the equipment. I want to do something in person, man. Life's opening up. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to have I got this Zoom 8, the Zoom L8, which has like 8 mics. I could put 8 mics in it. We can have a round table. I mean, I'm trying to do it. We should have we should do it like alphas of podcasting. You know what I'm saying? We should just have a collaboration. But I definitely want to have you gentlemen on my show too, and talking about how you started this podcast and all the things that you want to do. I love your shirt. So definitely, I love this opportunity. I love sharing voices, and I really appreciate this opportunity to be on your show. This juiced me up tonight for sure.
I appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely. So, once again, we want to thank everyone for joining us for another episode of Unapologetically Black Male. We talk about surviving the stigma, standards, and systems. Make sure you like, comment, follow, subscribe, and share so that we can continue to promote this positivity among African-American men and sharing our message, sharing our stories, and just being unapologetically us, and our emotions and our feelings, and understanding that we are who we are and that we make no qualms about it. This is who we are. This is what we stick to, and we're still going to define what success looks like, and we're still going to continue to make a positive impact on the world. So once again, thank you again. Thank you to our co-host, EJ Stewart. Thank you for all of you who are listening. Thank you for our guests, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one.